All right, good morning. Can you hear me? I think it looks like levels are good. Hello, everybody. I'm Lynell Ingram. I am the artist of the Paint Fumes channel, and today we're live streaming while I work on a little bit of my Frida canvas here. It is come along pretty well. I think that mostly like the skin tones and things are in pretty good shape, but we'll be working more on some background, just deciding what to do with this space, and going from there. So yeah, I'm working in acrylic pretty much entirely thus far on this piece. And yeah, I am, let me think for a moment. I'm sorry, I haven't had much coffee today and my brain's still catching up. And I should be awake by now because it's not like it's that crazy early in the day. Let me adjust the camera here. Okay. Seeing just a little bit of my mic, but okay. All right. Okay, I think we're all right. Switched everything around in my studio. Not everything, just like my desk surfaces. This is where my computer used to be, where I was painting before is now where my computer is outside. I do still have my big easel behind me, but being able to paint on a table and record it over here for streams was a little simpler. So I have a table easel set up on this desk. Anyway, I am a figurative and a little abstract in there type of artist. I draw women a lot, people. Most of my work centers around mental health, and trying to overcome stigmas related to mental health. You can see a lot of my work on my website if you are curious about the kind of stuff I do. There's a lot of mixed media stuff there. And here's one of my favorite things. Can you see my mug here? Masterpiece in progress. And this is a painting I did of a brain. So I have this. This is one of my favorite things, and I have this on my website too, if you find it amusing. Stickers and stuff also. Anyway, yes, today I have just an exceptionally loose plan about what to do here. I was following a photograph that I have. See it here. So this is what I've been working off of for the portrait. And I kind of was following along in terms of like suggestions of the buildings and things in the background, the color palette. But I think I might add some, make it less literal, perhaps. And that's kind of where I am and what my plan is. So I will be working with some probably bigger brushes and maybe some palette knives. Got everything within arm's reach for the most part. So we should be in good shape. Especially the coffee. Today's like one of those kind of, it's cool outside today. It's like damp and cool, and it's like one of those days that's kind of hard to get going in the morning. Like wake up, for me, that often means like on humid days I wake up with a headache, which is annoying, but usually often some breakfast and some caffeine will get me going. So, get my palette set up here. The painting I was working on the last couple streams of Marilyn started with a fairly similar palette. The difference, they both had a different underpainting. You can see that I was using a very like kind of fuchsia underpainting on this. I guess I need to pull back a little bit here. You see more of my messy workspace. But the pink color here was my underpainting for this one, whereas the painting that I did for Marilyn that I was working on previously was a very warm paint, like the light and everything in that was very warm. So I actually kind of flipped it around and used a cool underpainting for that one of teal, because I was painting all warm hues on it just to offer some balance. The biggest difference in the palettes of actually painting was this used more red, a little bit more red than the other one did, and that the other painting had green in it because she was in like a natural setting with trees and things around her, so I let a lot of green through for the kind of suggestions of the background. So yeah, I got some white, got some cadmium-free yellow light, and yellow oxide. And another color that this one used, where the other one used green, I did have some cobalt blue in this one. And Payne's gray. And I actually don't have my blue out. I'll see if I decide if I want to grab that or not. I might. I'm not putting any red down right now. At least not for the moment. Okay, let me see. Where's my blue? I have a small space, everything I can reach from where I'm sitting, but it's also a little chaotic because of that, especially when I set up to stream or record. There's cameras and wires and stuff everywhere. And as I've moved things around before the stream today, mostly in the last couple days, getting things set up a little differently, like came across some issues, like my printer cable isn't long enough to reach my computer where it is, so I had to print some shipping labels. My printer is like right under my feet right now. It's just right in the middle of the floor of the room. And I have a nice tall C-stand thing behind the computer, which I usually have my camera on so it can be up high to like film downward. And that I had a tripod head on so that would hold my camera and I could adjust it as I needed it. But it broke. I was trying to adjust it and I'm like, why is everything sitting so loosely? And then I sort of just picked it up and oh, it wasn't really attached anymore. The screw that held the whole tripod section to the piece and that attaches to the C-stand broke off. So that was great. Just great. Okay, so I have my little I have a paper palette. I use them depending on how crazy it gets when I'm painting. Like all of this is dry from a previous painting section. I just reuse it. Use the same part again. It's still good. Still works. So I'm just kind of mixing a dark, kind of grayed out bluishy tone. So I played around with putting some like white stuff on here and I don't really feel like that worked. So that's gonna get by and large covered up. And this, I'm just using a really cheapo, it's like a disposable palette knife, little plastic guy. Works just fine. They'll last a really long time if you clean them well, take care of them. So one thing I am doing in regard to the background, because I'm kind of letting go of any literal translation of what was there, is I'm still trying to keep some kind of geometric lines. Because it is structures, it's man-built man-made buildings, of course. What else would they be? But I imagine, I hope you know what I mean. Just kind of just gonna let some color like suggest what it is more so than literally painting it in. That's what I would like to accomplish here. So while I have some things literally painted in here, some of that's gonna get, I might leave this side mostly as is. That's kind of okay. A little bit hard edges here that I don't care for, but we'll mess around with it and see. Find the right balance. Well, there's my kitty cat. Watson's come by to say hi. Camera's not quite getting him, but he's here. My poor little kitty, he's had a bit of a cold or flu or something this last week, and he's finally starting to get over it. Go through a lot more painting like a big space like this. The canvas isn't huge. It is 24 by 24. It's big enough for sure. You go through a lot more paint when you're working on something this size. Definitely will need to be adding a lot more paint to my palette. So for what I'm doing for the background, yeah, I'm gonna need to add a lot more. Sort of like putting the feel for things a bit, deciding how it's gonna go when I first just start putting some things down. Before I put tons of paint on the palette and end up wasting it, because that's the thing about acrylic paint. It does dry up on you. But it's nice to have the window open in the studio. Got a fan on. So even though it's coolish, the humidity can feel kind of warm, and then with lights on for the stream, the lights can make it quite cozy. Also, this is the first painting that I've ever experimented with some gold paint, where it actually has some metallic sheen to it. I quite like that. I think it's something that needs some restraint in its use. It can probably get pretty over the top very quickly. Unless you have like unless you're going for full on like Gustav Klimt style gilded painting. I've seen some things done like that are really stunning, so that's absolutely, I think you just need to know what your plan is with it. I've always been quite a fan of Frida Kahlo's. I can remember being in high school and having to reproduce some of her paintings for our sketchbook assignments. And that was always that was always pretty much her self-portraits. But when I really fell in love with her work is when I saw, like, not the typical, like, self-portraits that were always kind of the main thing that was talked about back then. I very much love how she incorporated, like, the Mexican folk art themes into her work, the way that she expressed ideas. With metaphor, I think was so effective. And as I got older, the more I learned about her, the more it felt kindred in a way. Jim, good morning. Got your coffee or tea? That's good. It's definitely a day where you need something warm in the morning, I think. I mean, it's not that it's cold, but just dreary, kind of dreary. Couple years ago, I want to say 2 years ago. Was it last year? Or was it 2 years ago? I can't remember now. Everything bleeds together. But there was a museum not far from here. It was actually a suburban art museum. The Clive Carney, I think. Something along those lines. They had a Frida exhibit there. And it was really awesome to be able to go so close to my home. Like, I've seen a painting of hers here and there in person, but to see them like that was really, it was so cool. They had some of her like the corsets that she had to wear, the supports. They had a couple of them there that she had painted. Was it actually them, or was it recreations of them? And some of her outfits. I mean, it was just a really cool exhibit. Really neat to see something put together by, like, a small local museum. Usually it's going to be something that's, like, right in the city, or right at one of the big museums downtown. Very lightly adding little touches of the yellow oxide. Allowing some of the color and elements from my subject to kind of pull out into the rest of the canvas. 7-Eleven coffee and pumpkin spice syrup. Ooh, and a cheese Danish. That sounds good. Which makes me remember how much I still need to go and get some apple cider donuts this fall. Though when you have like a week ahead, that's going to be in the 80s. Doesn't entirely feel like fall some of these days, but I guess that is what it is. Yeah, I just love everything. I love fall so much, but just need to get out somewhere, get to an apple orchard or something, do the whole shebang. That's usually easy to do. Like, my mom still lives a little bit out from the city, so sometimes when I go see her, we might do things like that together, which is always fun. Oh, and with Frida, yeah, learning about like what she's like, the kind of person that she was, what she struggled with, both mentally and physically, was a big part of what draws me to her and her work. Is such a strong communication of those same things. And the fact that she really was quite beautiful. I think that she was very beautiful. And yet always portrayed herself in such a unflattering way, but like her photos are always stunning. I love the pictures of her where she during a period where things were very tumultuous with her marriage with Diego Rivera, I think she cut her hair, I believe, and then she was like, there are photographs of her where she's just like wearing men's clothing, and it looks like the most fashionable thing ever. She looks so stylish, and she was just like, everything about her was so interesting and relatable and real. She didn't have any of the that kind of self-importance that I associate with so many of the important artists that have been alive in our time, you know. She definitely lacked that narcissism. I'm always also curious about the connection between artists and mental health. Like there's the stereotype of the artist who's not, bless you, who's not well. Obviously like Van Gogh and such. But, which is of course a stereotype. But I do wonder what and if there is like a genuine tie that leads certain people to need to create. I don't know. It's just something that I think about sometimes. Is there a causation or correlation at all? It's something that's pretty hard to study, I imagine, or collect data on. Which leads me to the same questions I sometimes have and pose about, well, at least for myself, and I think there's a lot of other people that seem to work this way, but the fascination, I love horror movies, and I talk about this regularly, but it just fascinates me. And then there's a lot of people now with a extreme fascination with, like, the true crime stuff, too. That's such a big deal now. And there actually is some writing and studies, perhaps, I guess, like collections of data and theories and whatever about that very topic, about like how horror movies relate to mental health. Some things claim it to be quite bad, and actually, and especially mostly in terms of the stigmas that they can promote. And I actually saw a movie yesterday that was a perfect example of that. It was there's a movie called Maniac from the late 70s, I think it is. And then there was a remake of it with Elijah Wood. I was curious to see that remake. I've seen the original quite a few years ago. And I finally watched it because I had a little time to kind of kill and just check out having to do anything for a little bit yesterday. And it was definitely the stereotype, and I guess the original too, but this one really pushed it, of somebody who's mentally ill is going to be inherently violent. They're crazy, so they kill, kind of thing. Which is not true. There's no strong correlation at all there. But it's not just, I don't think it's just horror movies that have given mental health things a bad look. I mean, mental health, like hospitals and things, if you think about what a in-care hospital would be for mental health, your picture in your head is probably something kind of frightening. And that comes from a lot of different types of movies that portray it that way. I mean, just to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, for example, is definitely not a horror movie, but is still paints a pretty horrific vision of what it's like inside of a mental institute or a hospital. So that's an issue with, I think, just fiction and movies in general. I've used those things as crutches. But outside of that, outside of the portrayals that are not helpful, there's some there is some information out there about why people might be drawn to them. The safe place to explore feelings of your fears is a big thing that I see discussed. And I've seen some really terrific movies talk about trauma recently, trauma and other things along those lines, where you use the idea of a monster or whatever it is, the scary thing. I think this is where the movies can be really very good. It's a metaphor for real world things, whether it's something like trauma, grief, or social things, even. Social commentary. The Vigil is a movie that I just watched recently that was a good one. It was like grief and trauma all, and it was very interesting in the way that it was done. The one interesting thing I will say about the movie that I watched yesterday, Maniac, was that it was almost entirely filmed like first person. And that was very interesting, the way that they filmed it like that, but otherwise, But Hereditary, as the name suggests, literally is like a movie that is making like inherited generational trauma, generational mental illness is the horror element of it. Smile was a very good one that talked about a little jump scare heavy, but talked about trauma. There's quite a few. Addiction, loneliness, a well done movie in that genre can really do an amazing job of breaking down some of these things, the effects that they have on people and our lives and the people around you. There's this quote that I can never remember who it's attributed to, but it comes to mind a lot in terms of any kind of art. And what is it that art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed, something along those lines. I heard Hereditary is really hardcore horror. There is a scene actually fairly early in the morning that is one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life. Like, my jaw was on the ground. I did not expect it to happen. Everything else after that was what it has is a lot of like brutal drama and grief in it, and I think that that's why it has that kind of reputation. It's intense. The end gets a little silly. But yeah, it's like, it's this horrible thing happens in this family, and the grief and the guilt and all the things that come with that just make everything kind of fall apart. It's and then there's like supernatural elements to go with the falling apart and their portrayal of it, but it is a very intense movie. I will definitely give it that. Very, very intense movie. Not for the faint of heart. And there's some beautiful cinematography in it as well. That's another thing. Just the opening shot of it, and the main character played by Toni Collette, who's incredible. She is this artist who makes these like miniatures, these like dioramas. This is her art form. And the way that they incorporate that into some of the scenes and some of the cinematography is really, really cool. And the director who did that also did Midsommar, which I've actually not watched yet either. But it's on my list. I've heard not as good of things about it, but I'll get around to watching it at some point. And something else that's really excellent and is probably a little bit more user-friendly is The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, the series. It's incredibly well done. It's a drama, essentially, about this family that centers around this house. It's really beautiful. Under the Skin has beautiful Scottish scenery. Under the Skin is wonderful. That is a very atmospheric, gorgeous movie. Yeah, I really like that. The sound in that movie, the sound design, like score, I guess, the scoring of it is amazing. It's so subtle and wonderfully done. Yeah, I love Under the Skin. Terrific movie. Very kind of like artsy horror almost. Yeah, very beautiful. And some very crazy imagery in a couple scenes on that one too. But it is not the kind of it's not jump scare horror. So it's not for that kind of audience, but I really love that movie also. Score and sound design is excellent. Yeah, it really is. Very much so. That was one of the main things that struck out to me, or watching the character. And apparently, it's Scarlett Johansson is the lead. The interactions with the people where she's driving the van around and picking people up, that was most of it not scripted. So that's kind of crazy to know about after the fact, like to think about watching that. And yeah, and this random people that she was pulling up to, it was not all actors. Some of it was just regular people that she was literally just having these interactions with. So crazy. Very cool. High recommend on that movie also. And something that's sort of in the vein of Under the Skin, just in terms of like, it's like the atmospheric, beautifully shot. not tons happening metaphor is Neon Demon. That's a beautiful movie too. All right, let me see here. I'm at a point where it's like have to decide if I want to add any more or not in terms of background elements and even figurative elements. If there's anything more that I want to change on her. I could see possibly doing just a little bit of tweaking maybe on the rendering of her arms. And I might add a little bit. The photo, her dress is has a lot of patterns and things in it. And I might just add a little bit of that in, suggestions of it in, just like kind of creating almost shadow with it. So that's a thought. But in terms of adding anything else, I'm kind of almost okay with just letting it be very, it's just textural, but in the way compared to a lot of my work, almost quiet in that it's texture, but there's not all these things screaming at you. Okay, there's the mowing. I'm gonna shut the window really quick. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's very loud and I'm gonna go close the window. Wondered if that was gonna go on today. It often does on Thursdays. But I thought that we'd gotten this far without it. Maybe got off lucky today, but not so much. As long as I have a fan on in here, I can handle it. Just adding a little bit more of my cobalt blue. Hey, this was a tube of paint that I got at the waste shed. See the price on the bottom? It was partially used. I got it for $2.50. Good deal. I keep putting an order together online for some art supplies I need. I need some paint, a couple of paints and some things like that. And then not placing it. Like, I keep doing this. Making the order, then sitting on it. Probably just gonna have to bite the bullet pretty soon, though. And unfortunately, now I know that I need to buy a new tripod head for my camera so I can mount it again. Which is sort of a pain, but that's the way it goes. Just the way things go sometimes. I had thought about, before I did all this, like laying down some of the more of the yellow first and then adding like this thing on top of the yellow. But I felt like, then I started to feel like that might be too much almost. You couldn't hear it? Okay, but I have construction down the street too, okay? Well, I have my mic set up so that it hopefully doesn't pick up a lot of that kind of noise, but just to be safe, because if they do come, like currently they're just like on the block. They're like in front of the property at large, but if they get up by the window here, it's gonna get really loud. So just being safe. I get the email about the pirate shirt sewing class. Yeah, that's really cool. I love that they're doing that. I love it. I won't be able to attend for that, but I think that that is so cool, and thank you very much for sending it over to me. That place seems like just the coolest. They do so much and offer so much. It's something that's been in my mind as like potentially, you know, one of those one day it'd be nice to do or cool to pull off, but to create a space similar to that here, like more in the suburbs would be really great. Some artsy space. I have noticed that there are some of the burbs around the Chicagoland area that have a little bit more of an artistic flair to them. A little, like, you know, that there's people around doing cool, interesting things. And for some reason, where in the area I live, there seems to be not much of that. And I don't know if that means that it would be a bad place for something like that to try to happen, or if that would just bring it about, you know, it would draw people out of their, maybe out of their houses a little bit for the creative people that might be in the area. I don't know, but I love the idea of like a community creative space. And yeah, the question of whether there'd be enough people in the area to be interested and support it would be a big question, but also just the fact that I don't have that kind of money to pull it off anytime soon is also just, you know, makes it not maybe matter as much yet, but I don't know, maybe one day. Assuming that by then I haven't already, like, gone nuts and just moved to a cabin in the woods. It's so easy when you work in a creative, like if you work as an artist, to spend a lot of your time just alone by yourself working. That it becomes like you'd have to put the effort into getting out into the world and finding things to be involved in. Which is especially difficult when you have a lot of anxiety and other issues, but still, that doesn't make it any less necessary. It's rare to find a makerspace with so many different disciplines. Yeah, that's very true, and that's why I think that it's so cool. What is it the pumping station? What they offer is so amazing. The place where Jim is talking about is so many different types of equipment and things that you can use and learn to use there. It's just the coolest. Metalworking, wood stuff, pumping station one, okay. Just amazing. So many disciplines and talented weirdos. Talented weirdos are the best. It's my people. They just all seem to be so far away. I did manage to go into the city a few weeks ago and do this, like, there's this pop-up craft place. I think it's literally called Pop Craft. And you could do rug tufting, where you get that tufting gun and you get to work on this like piece of thick canvas. It was super cool. And I think that I saw that they just like you did the work there, and then they would do the finishing of the backing and such, which I would have loved to have learned about that, but it's fine. But I think I just saw that they just shipped out the work the project I did while I was there, so I'm really excited to get that. Maybe hang it up in the studio, perhaps. Find some wall space in here. Trying to balance lights, darks, where I want my attention to go. I have been trying to challenge myself to take part in more in-person events, and the biggest downside, like art things, and the biggest downside for me in doing that is that everything is not nearby. Which, when it's like hard enough to force yourself to get up and out, moving out of the house as it is, like that's just like that added barriers. And I also I've spent I went through a period about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, where I seem to be spending a lot of money on different art supplies and books and things, so it's like I gotta rein that in for a little bit of time too, where everything costs something. Gotta catch up with myself. Gotta have balance. If I can get my camera hooked up again to be back on my C-stand, if I get a new tripod head, I might, from this side, working here, be able to put a camera over my palette. I might be able to do that. Like, have a dedicated one. Possibly. I would like to try to pull that off. I might see how long I can get, I don't know. I'm gonna have to price around and see about that, a new tripod head, and see if it's, something that might have to wait a little bit. We'll just have to see. There's always so many things that need to be taken care of, it seems like. It's always just something. Alright, I think I'm trying to decide about the shape of the lighter background that's kind of framing her face. And I'm looking at my screen over here to see, like, from farther back where I can see, like, what the camera's seeing, and deciding how I feel about the kind of shape that's being created. I want to, yeah, maybe create a little bit more of a shape that comes along here with the darks now. So it really is almost more of a halo that goes around Frida here. Okay, we're getting close on this side anyway. Seems random, and yet it isn't actually. There, that's pretty close. I like that shape that's happening here around her face. And with all the noise here now, the more that I do that, the more that I do want to go back in and tighten up some things on her painting, because I painted this quite loosely. By almost all of it was quite loosely done. And I have worked on this after the initial painting, which was done live outdoors. So I was using very like big brushes and heavy paint handling. When I brought it home initially, I did do some work on it, on her, especially her face. And a little bit on like the hands, but that was most of what I did. Yeah, I think I would like a strong, maybe some, at least a few areas of a stronger contrast of what's happening with all of this texture, and then a few areas that are really quite tight on her. Perhaps. Or it might just end up something that I decide. Maybe I just want to sleep on it a little bit and figure it later. I don't know, we'll see. That's dangerous territory, putting things off to think on it, because sometimes it just ends up sitting unfinished for incredibly long periods of time. Just also adding just a few lines of like suggestions of the pattern. Just in some of the darker areas of the shirt that are on the yellow part. Well, I did go out and buy most of what I need to build a maul stick for myself. I'm quite excited about that. The only thing I didn't find is what I'll use specifically for the ball end of the stick. The maul stick being the thing that you can like have a stick going across your painting so that you're not dragging your hand through the wet paint. And also steady your hand if you're working on an area and you're a little shaky and you want some detail. So you can buy them for a lot of money, or you can build one. So I did get just like a $2 dowel. I think it's a 1/2 inch. I thought about getting the 3/4 inch. It felt a little heavy for me. The 1/2 inch one seemed quite stable, so I went with that. I got the little bit of fabric to tie over it. All I need, and I think that I have like I thought it might be perfect to use one of those balls that's like the those stress reliever squish balls. What do they call those? I don't remember now. I had one. I don't know where. Should have been some freebie giveaway from something, and it was just sitting around. Yeah, I have the suede, the chamois or suede tied over a wad of cloth. I have the suede. And yeah, it could just be a wad of cloth too. I do have that. I have some cotton that I can just wad up in there too. I was trying to think if I could just get like a little, some kind of small, softish, foamy ball to use for it. But I'd prefer to just use what I have and not purchase anything else, so I think I probably will just go with some fabric or cotton. So I can work on putting that together. Over perhaps the weekend. Feels like there's so much to do. I feel always like I'm so far behind on everything. Which is always a fun feeling. My drawing that was, or not my drawing, the photo that I'd been working with was sitting next to me, and I was going to look at it to see if there was anything I wanted to take from it in terms of the pattern, but the fan blew it someplace and I have no idea where it is right now. Oh, my sweet little kitty's been sitting next to me this whole time, sleeping. Since he hasn't been feeling super great, he's been my little Velcro. He's doing better, but just some kind of little respiratory virus or something he was fighting off. Yeah, he's my sweet little guy. We spent a lot of time sleeping the last about week. But I think the biggest thing I worry about in terms of, like, if you have a pet that gets sick, you watch, their input and output. And as long as that never became a concern, just wait for his system to fight it off. Oh, sweet pea. He's a good boy. He's sleepy. And he happens to have his favorite of vet appointments this Friday anyway, just for his, annual shots and checkup. So I've been kind of holding off on doing anything besides that since I knew we had the appointment, and I was just keeping my eye on him, but he still doesn't have quite the energy he did, but he is starting to get into a little bit of trouble again, so that's when he's starting to feel better. Jumping on everything he's not supposed to and yelling at you when he's bored. He just sleeps a lot more than he normally would is all right now. You can hear a little bit of the congestion still and him breathing. Yeah, I never had a cat that had that kind of issue before. But he has this this virus that is common for cats to get from when they come from a foster situation or shelter. Unfortunately, he's got that, and that's something that never completely goes away. It just goes into remission, and it will just flare up now and again if he's stressed or something. I heard this song the other day that totally just flashed me back to like, I don't know, 7th grade or something. From early 90s, I guess it would be. Early-ish, mid-90s. But it was a cover of this song, and I, like, recognized it immediately, and then I'm like, oh my god, I haven't thought about this song in 100 years. But Shakespeare's Sister. And it was the song Stay, and I remember there was, like, just a brief period where it was played a lot, and and when I was a kid, I really liked that song, and it just, like, wow, took me back. Shakespeare's Sister. Hadn't thought about them in ages. When, I guess one of the singers was from the band Bananarama, and this was a project that she'd gone on to. I had no idea. So just out of curiosity, I like queued up an album on Spotify when I was driving around the other day. I'm like, how does this hold up for me now? And you know, it's pretty interesting. It's like a little bit rock, a little bit 80s pop, synthy, and then like a lot of horns. Just a little different. Probably not the kind of music I'd throw in like my general playlist these days, but yeah. Flash from the past. I have a genuine soft spot for like 80s new wave music. The patterning that I've been adding on here, it's quite subtle. I don't know how well how well it's even picking up in the camera. Zoom in a little bit, you might see a little bit more of it. Just these like fine lines and things in here. And I'm just adding little like suggestions of the pattern. I'm just using a very thin brush now. This is a number 1. Just number 1 round. I don't know. This brush doesn't actually say anything on it, but I just happen to... know that, I guess. And I've mixed a little bit of paint with just letting a little bit of water in there because this is acrylic and it just sort of lets it flow nicely. Like I picked up a little hair somewhere. One of the things on my to-do list for today is to get new glasses ordered. I've been putting it off for a long time now. Well, like a month, but still. That's the first thing that I need to take care of when it comes to any spending money. I'm just trying to decide how much of this to continue to add, or when it looks like I'm at a place that I'm happy with. Just tiny little bits of very subtle detail. Right. I think that might be fine. I don't know that I want to get too much heavier lines in there, just enough to know that it's there. Yeah, I'm happy with that for now. Okay. So today was a lot of just working on suggesting things, background, getting the way that it's painted all through here to a place where I'm happy with. And then now it's like the push and pull of like refining details, deciding what I want to be really refined a little bit further. And I think there will just be a few spots where I'm going to render it a little bit more smoothly and let it really come through. And maybe just a little bit in a part of the face and here in the arm down to the hand, and then deciding if I want to add anything else or if I'm happy with it at that point, which is always the most difficult part, deciding when it's done. So I think this is probably a good place to call it for today. Nice, just chill stream project. Still just working on finishing things up on a few paintings and just keep going with it. Scratching my chair a little bit. Okay, yeah. So thank you for joining me for my stream today, and we'll be back Monday night, 7 p.m. Yeah. maybe then I'll do some of the refining on here, or else I don't know yet. We'll decide what to work on in the next one. And I'm trying to work on finishing up a regular video to get posted as well. So have a wonderful weekend. Yep, you too, Jim. Have a good one. And I will see everybody hopefully next week. Bye, and have a great day. Have a great day, a great weekend. All the things. Bye.